Welcome to Stat, I'm telling you all medical true crime stories, and it gets bizarre. Karen Wickham, yeah, she used to work in ER, and now she's sharing the knowledge, so let's get involved. Hey, funny and scary at the same time. Medical mysteries, all facts, she ain't lying. So tune in to Stat if you dare, cause crazy things can happen anytime, anywhere. Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Stat, Shocking Traumas and Treatments, and I am your host, Karen Wickham, coming to you from beautiful Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and I am not alone.
Hello, everybody. It's me, Mary.
Hi, Mary. I haven't seen you in a while.
Well, we've been busy.
No, we haven't. Okay, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
I've
been about
busy.
a month since we were recording. Where have you been?
Oh, well, we've had a few things going on. And...
yeah, a lot of personal stuff. It's slowly but surely getting sorted out. So here we are.
Oh, and we got a puppy.
Yes, we got a beautiful little gigantic girl that is 3 months old and 25 pounds. And well, there's pictures on the Facebook group
She's beautiful.
If you want to go see.
She's beautiful, beautiful little girl.
Yes, she is. All right. So we last left off. Let's just get into it because it's been a while.
Yes.
And I was doing the final touches on it over the last day or so and getting raged again. Right?
Raring to go.
Raring to go. So we left off with Cathy Wood. We told her whole sordid, is that you say? Sordid story from when she was a teenager all the way up.
Yeah,
and
she got married, had a kid, blah, blah, blah.
And she's worked at Alpine Manor, and she started to get really out of control.
Her background. We gave her background.
Yeah. And the last part we left off.
Saga.
The last part we left off was with her, meeting up with Delta Dawn. And
Delta Dawn.
the young woman from Alpine Manor, they started to date, so to speak. Delta Dawn. Yeah.
No, what was her name? Dawn Male?
Dawn Male. M-A-L-E.
I think that's so funny.
But I'm just thinking about how the story's about, talks about Dawn. Then there's a song by Helen Reddy called Delta Dawn, which is a really sad friggin' song about this woman wandering the streets looking for a man. And, and then, of course, we've got the Delta virus. It all ties in together. And then because this is a medical-based show, we've got irresponsible, crazy nurses that are refusing to get their vaccines.
Oh, don't get me started on.
So
well,
that's
we won't start you on that because
I end up with a migraine and lose about 15 pounds in sweat and and raving.
Steam comes out of her ears.
Yeah, and air punching. All right, let's get into Gwendolyn. She is the other part of the duo, serial murderous duo at Alpine Manor. Okay, Gwendolyn Graham. She has a long history of abuse from her family. And she also had a ton of head injuries. And I think you put those two together, it may explain her behavior and what she did. This is no justification, but the huge point of why I do this or talk about this or I'm fascinated is trying to figure out what happens in the brain that causes this. And breaking this down, I just kind of went, we're looking at a psychopath versus someone who has PTSD and head injuries. So it's sort of like an acquired brain injury that led to her behaviors versus someone who was just plain psychopath that had no obvious trauma growing up, though, unless it, I haven't read or seen anything that indicated this except for I believe she was telling lies. And so you put the two together, you've got the perfect storm.
Yeah, for sure. I think you've got, two different origin stories here, if you want to say it. But, Gwendolyn was the victim of some horrific abuse. And we know that abuse in childhood, abuse in particular in childhood when the brain's developing, will change the actual structure of the brain. So she had that going against her. And then you add on that head injuries, which can influence the structure.
So let's break it down. Her father sexually abused and beat her into her mid-teens. Her mother was demanding and critical and cold, and she was acting this way towards her since she was very, very young, 2 to 3 years old. She had a cycle of abuse, psychological and physical abuse towards Gwendolyn, where there was a pattern of behavior of conflict, punishment, and rejection. So, conflict, she didn't do what her mom asked her to do, which 2 to 3 toddlers do. She didn't want to eat her dinner or something. Then she would get physically punished and then rejected. So, obviously, that is going to cause major trauma. And so she was robbed of her childhood. She desperately wanted a relationship with her mother, which she would never be able to get. And she spoke about her father like he was a saint, which is, again, a common thing that can happen for whatever reasons. In my unprofessional opinion, it may be because, with a trauma bond, they still need... I mean, you can put a roof over someone's head and put food on the table. Parents will say that. But the psychological, emotional element has to be there. The children need to be loved. People need to be loved. But, there's that, if you remove that piece, that's missing. And they still want that from their parents, even though their parents couldn't provide that to them. So,
there's a great book. We'll put it in the show notes. It's called Why Love Matters. And it's about... why love is so important in the developing child, even in the fetus, like in utero. So we'll put the notes in there. It's a great book that I have delved into. But if people are more interested in attachment and how that affects developing brain of a child.
Sounds good. Maybe it's something we can even cover.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
So her family was constantly on the move. She was born in Santa Monica, then lived in Connorsville, Indiana, moved to Northern California, and then finally settled in Tyler, Texas. When she was 15, she went to the East Coast to join a missionary group, and she traveled with the group to Africa. At 17, her parents split, and her father went to California, and she went to live with him. So now let's talk about her physical injuries, aside from what happened with her family, with her parents. She had a major motorcycle accident and had a traumatic brain injury in which her head slammed off the pavement. It was so bad that it permanently affected her vision. She had to wear she's still alive, so strong corrective lenses because the damage was irreparable. But she didn't go to the hospital. The only reason she went was months later when she had put on next to 100 pounds because her thyroid had been affected. And so at this point, the doctor, I think gave her meds or did whatever treatment, and she was able to lose all the weight again.
Wow. So people would be like, well, why wouldn't she have gone to the hospital? Because sometimes if you've had trauma, sometimes you get in trouble, right? Like people would be like, you're always getting in trouble. You're always getting sick or hurt or something. It's like an inconvenience.
It could be money, because hospitals are expensive.
Yeah, that's true. Could have been
or, she had her brain rattled, didn't think about it. She was maybe just confused and went home. There's a lot of reasons for it. 1 year later, she got hit by a car.
Like as a pedestrian?
As a pedestrian.
Oh, okay.
She somehow got home and was unconscious for 2 days. When she came to, she went to the hospital. Why? Because her arm was shattered. She had to have surgery to put it back together with plates and screws. Now, okay, was there no one around her?
What about the person who hit her?
Well, yeah, maybe that person that hit her was like, let me get you home and sweep you under the rug and let's not talk about it. But, she was living with her father at the time. What? So, I mean, I guess if you do have abusive parents, it'd be like, yeah, just go lie down, and then 2 days later, you must have been tired. I don't know, but I mean, that's absolutely
Imagine if her arm was like all fucked up looking.
No, she was all like wibbly wobbly. If she had to like get plates and screws, it's like, and that's what got her to the hospital. So 3 months after that, she was in another car accident. She was supposed to wear her corrective lenses all the time, but felt really self-conscious about them and didn't wear them even when driving. So she was driving her aunt around for errands and she slammed into a parked car. She hit it so hard that the car started on fire. She crawled out of the wreck, kicked open a window, and pulled her aunt to safety. got all of her front teeth knocked out and had to have surgery and dentures to repair that. So in a 2-year period, she had 3 very serious accidents.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure if she got hit on her arm, she probably fell and hit her head. So there's,
Well, no, but she did because she was out for 2 days, remember? She was unconscious for
right.
2 days
Well,
from a head injury.
I didn't know if that was she took something. And
No. She was out cold from the head injury.
Yeah, hit a parked car. I think slammed into a parked car.
So she was in a coma practically. Well, I mean, we don't know if she was awake or not. I mean, but the fact is that, yeah, that's really bad. At the age of 20, she moved back to Tyler, Texas. She met a woman by the name of Fran. They fell in love and moved in together. At that point, she got her GED, went to school to become a nurse, but she found it too difficult. Fran would go on to say that her and Gwen had a tumultuous relationship, that Gwen had a Jekyll and Hyde personality. And I think between the abuse and head injuries, that can explain a lot. Now, this is my unprofessional opinion, but this is what I'm thinking. First of all, let's talk about the head injuries. I think she likely, at least with one of them, had a coup contra coup head injury. And that's, picture a ball that you're bouncing. When you bounce the ball, it doesn't stick to the floor. It bounces back up. So your brain will hit the inside of your skull in one direction and go back against it. And so I think this would explain maybe frontal lobe and occipital lobe damage depending on whatever hit first. And so let's talk about the frontal lobe. The executive function is planning, problem solving, motivation, judgment, memory, reward, decision-making, impulse control, social behavior, personality, learning, and attention. The motor movements and stuff like that and mobility are also in that area as well. So your ocular movement is involved. Your frontal eye movement, your rapid eye movement is in that center, is in the frontal lobe, and facial movement and skeletal muscular movements like we talked about, gait. And so if she hit the back of her head, that's the occipital lobe, which is the vision center. And then with trauma, PTSD, your limbic system is affected. So that's your limbic lobe, your amygdala, your hippocampal formation, thalamus, hypothalamus, like supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. But the whole point, it comes down to that involves learning and memory and emotions and behavior. So PTSD hijacks your brain in response to stimuli. You go into a fight or flight or freeze, response. The prefrontal cortex shuts down and the brain becomes disorganized and overwhelmed. The body goes into a survival mode and shuts down the higher reasoning parts of your brain, and you have a profound stress response. So I think you put all that stuff together, it can really explain a lot of how she became who she was. But she was aware of what she was doing, that what she was doing was wrong. But I just think this is no excuse, but this may actually be one of those cases where you can go, we can maybe see why this happened.
Well, definitely would have contributed. And I know enough from my work, working with people with concussions who've had these kind of head injuries that have affected the hypothalamus. I've had a few clients who've, gained weight. Any of the autonomic, so the hypothalamus is, responsible for a lot of autonomic stuff, sleep, wake, circadian rhythm, hunger, thirst, so I've had clients who've, put on weight or had trouble sleeping, and it's usually a frontal, impact, and it's affecting the hypothalamus, which can then in turn affect the pituitary and then the thyroid, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a cascade effect.
I mean, I get it on a personal level myself. I've had a generous amount of head injuries and PTSD. So luckily, through love, support, and different things, I am not a serial killer, but Mary wonders sometimes if I could be, based on my
rantings.
My rantings. Okay, so the other portion of this is that she was a binge drinker, and when she did drink, she would usually drink to blackout drunk and get violent. She's getting a lot of bar brawls, parking lot fights, but contrastly, Contrastly, I always say, I speak so weird. She would be the first to help out a neighbor. She really liked helping people. So she could go from like anger, I'm going to get you, to someone else needing help, and she'd be the first one to jump in and help.
Or
So,
was she in these brawls jumping in and defending somebody? Or
probably
being
not.
kind of
Well, she might have, but it was
Well,
more...
you said she's a small gal. Like, she's like, what, 5'2" or something?
Yeah,
What,
5'2", at this point, 5'2", 140.
So it's like a scrappy little bulldog
Yeah.
kind of thing, you know?
You know someone like that?
Maybe I do.
Okay, so we'll see how this all plays out, in you know, and how it factors into the horrors that unfold at Alpine Manor. So, going back to Tyler, Texas, Fran decided to move to Grand Rapids, Michigan because she was bored and needed something new. Gwen, who was 22 at the time, decided to follow her out because she wanted something new as well, and she wanted to go to school to become a paramedic. So just get the hell out of Dodge, Texas. So Gwen moved in with Fran, and it was a really bad situation. She lived in a really, like a tiny, tiny little apartment in a not great apartment building, and the building was full of people that had drug and alcohol problems, and they were always in and out of their apartment. And Fran was...
Out of their apartment?
Yeah, you know.
Or in the building?
No, like would drop in. Like in the building, they lived there, but they'd be dropping in, hey, let's have some Colt 45 together.
Oh, no. So like a skeefy kind of...
Yeah. So she's like, I got to get out of here. This isn't working for me. So first she had to find a job. So she applied at Alpine Manor. She got the position as an aide. There was a high turnover staff there. We're talking about 66% turnover.
Wow, that's a
massive.
lot.
Gwen's time at Alpine Manor started with a 5-day training course, and she trained with 24 other aides. Now, and this is how it works with an aide. They are assigned to a group of patients per shift, and their roles depend on what the needs of the client are, as ordered through the medical chart. And this is a really scary thing. They have more contact with the patient than any other staff in the manor. I don't know if it's... I mean, I'm assuming that it's the same way elsewhere. But here in Canada, in order to work in a nursing home with patients, you have to be a PSW, which is a personal support worker. And that can be like a 6-month to a year-long training where you learn how to take care of people properly.
Yeah, you go to like a community college or a vocational school.
Yeah, exactly. The people that were hired there were just literally hired off the streets. I'm not saying, you know, they were homeless people. No. Okay. That sounds terrible. I didn't mean it that way.
A little bit, like she did try a bit of nursing, so she had a bit of sort of medical.
But the thing is that you could be doing any other profession looking for a job. They would hire you. So their responsibility, you know, to preserve skin integrity, assessing for breakdown, so repositioning, skincare, bathing, lifts, transfers, meals and feeding if needed, vital signs, safe application of physical restraints as needed. So all of those things without any training other than a 5-day, you know, quick and dirty course. My loved one, I'm not saying they're all terrible, like they're not bad people that are taking these positions, but they're untrained. And maybe some of these people weren't great. Well, clearly.
Yeah, I mean, it could be different from state to state too. Like when I was in Florida teaching massage therapy, you know, the qualifications to be a massage therapist were different from state to state. Some places you needed to pass like a statewide exam, and some places it was you had to get a license from the county or the district you were in. It wasn't.
So it could
it wasn't regulated, so it could be different in each state. I think Florida had a pretty good sort of. I don't know if they call them PSWs. They might have called them like healthcare aides or something like that. But they,
at the end of the day, I mean, at this Alpine Manor, they're pretty sloppy with hiring. Okay, I mean, it's scary. Gwen found that working with actual patients was not the same as watching in-service training videos. Residents of nursing homes have many different personality traits, quirks, and routines, as all of us do. And the level of frustration for a client is often exacerbated because of loss of independence, health, autonomy, and if you have confusion, you're not aware of what's going on and you could act out that way. Sometimes it comes out as aggression, and whether the patient has dementia or is of sound mind. Depression is very high in nursing homes, and sometimes there's fear and a feeling of hopelessness. However, it's not all doom and gloom for every nursing home. Many homes have activities for the clients, crafts, music, games, and outings, and it's a very nurturing environment, clean, bright, and the clients are happy and settled. Not, again, that's not everybody would be this way, but there are obviously some really good nursing or care homes out there. So this was not the case for Alpine Manor. Gwen learned about working with the elderly pretty quickly. On the first day, she had water thrown in her face and then food spit at her. But on the same day, she saved someone's life because they were choking on food. So, that's a lot to happen on your first day.
Yeah, that's a pretty wide range of things going on there.
But it speaks of her personality too, right? Like where something negative would happen, and then she would also, in the same token, something positive would happen in her life. It's that black and white sort of thinking that sort of matched her personality.
Right. She didn't.
I don't know.
She
maybe
did not save the person.
Yeah, maybe this is a stretch of thinking, but that's how I saw it.
Yeah.
So that's Gwen, and it's all going to be coming together here. You shall see. That we need to get back to Cathy, talk a little bit about her. Mary's like, what? Right. And talk about her and see how Gwen and Cathy come together. We talked about how Cathy was dating this Dawn at the time. She had a split up with her husband, and she was partying a lot and causing a lot of shit at the nursing home. So just a tiny thing about Dawn. She hated men. Like, absolutely hated men. So when Cathy told her all these lies about Ken, she was able to suck her in and bring her into her world and manipulate her even more. And she said that, Ken would play head games with her and emotionally abuse her and turned her daughter against her and ordered her around, punched her, raped her, said all these terrible things that Ken did not do. So Dawn moved in with Cathy. So they were shacking up together. And one time Ken went over and found them in bed together. So he assaulted Dawn, which it's fucking bullshit, but he assaulted her. And Cathy took off, leaving Dawn alone in the house with Ken. And so we all know, we talked about Dawn's history a bit. She came from abuse and abandonment and alcoholism and stuff like that. So, okay, you're living with this woman. Her ex-husband comes over, kicks the shit out of you, and your partner doesn't even stay. And it's her husband and takes off. This is just, it's so messed up. It's so horrible. So they stayed together. And oh
my goodness!
But then Dawn,
she stayed regardless. Like, even though
Dawn, so you see, Cathy, she has this way of manipulating people and holding on to them. Where Dawn, you can see why she stayed if she had come from a history of abuse and she was in love with Cathy. So and she noticed that Cathy toyed around with Ken. So, how much of a mixed message? She says all these things about him, but she's not afraid of him except for, when that happened. And she toys with him, and that she didn't seem concerned about her daughter at all. She didn't talk about her. She didn't do anything about her, that kind of thing. Also, what was going on this time is Cathy was having a lot of parties and going to gay bars or vice versa. So, party, gay bar, party. And she would control the parties at her house, in the sense that everybody would get wasted and she would sit back and watch the goings on. And she was abusive to her sexual partners. While having sex, she liked to hit them, bite them, and scratch them. And she got very turned on by it. Dawn noticed that she was getting very close with Gwen at the time. So enter Gwen now into the situation. And Dawn thought that Gwen and Cathy had a bad influence on each other. They once got so wasted on their lunch break at work, they were sent home. Now, were they fired? No.
Wait, okay, so Cathy and Dawn got drunk on their lunch break?
No, Cathy and Gwen.
Oh, Cathy and Gwen, sorry. Right, okay, Cathy and Gwen.
Got hammered on their lunch break, were drunk at work, and they were sent home. Not fired, not don't come back, don't pass go. And another time they went joyriding together when they were hammered, and they hit a bunch of pylons and signs and barricades. So they would just go out drunk joyriding.
God, who was driving?
Oh God, who knows? And then the threesomes and the foursomes started to happen. Again, you know what? Do what you want, consenting adults. But you can see like how she just went like
spiraling.
Yeah. So, you know, her and Ken were still having contact, and he noticed the change in Cathy physically. She dyed her hair. She started to wear makeup and dresses. He knew that she was constantly drinking and partying, and that it was taking its toll on her. And yeah, and obviously, well, he noticed that it was taking its toll on her, and obviously they had a shit relationship, but I guess things were getting worse with them. So in the meantime, Ken had gotten an apartment for him and Jamie, and had enrolled her in school and started a life without Cathy. You know, Ken just seems like a really weak guy to me. You know, like, how long did he live with her and allow the abuse to happen to her daughter? And why did it take so long for him to leave and protect her? That pisses me off about the guy. And I don't, guy, girl, woman, man, I don't care. You got to put your kids first. Cathy's obviously just a complete scumbag. But it took him far too long to do the right thing for his daughter. So yeah. She asked him constantly for money, and he would give it to her. She knew how to play him.
Wait, he's raising the daughter?
Yes.
So why is she asking him for money?
She should be paying alimony. He gives her the house. He's paying for the house. He bought her a car. He's paying for the car. And he's raising the daughter and still giving her money whenever she asks for it. She would even go over to his apartment and try to seduce him. And then she'd turn around and say, no, changed my mind.
Just a head games and manipulation, right? Just like to the nth degree, right? I mean, she totally should have been paying him, not the other way around.
Yeah, it's insane. So, the relationship between her and Don ended abruptly. Don got fired for being drunk at work, and you know they kind of split up slowly after that. Now I'm just going to talk about a couple of women that work there that can speak of Cathy's behavior and even testified against her. So one of them is Angie Brozak. I believe I spoke before about how her and her husband would go out with Cathy and Ken as a couple.
Right. Kind of like not double date, but like
sort of, yeah.
They would
couples
hang.
Got
two
together.
Couples that hang out together.
Yeah. So Cathy split with Ken, and Angie split with her husband. In fact, Angie really thought Cathy was a good friend to her because she was going through breast cancer, or had breast cancer, and had to get a double mastectomy. And Cathy apparently helped her all through this, was very supportive. And then there was a huge shift in her behavior. So she went from that to being very spiteful, and she told these like terrible stories about Ken, and Angie was like, oh, I just didn't see any evidence of that, but wow, how did that happen so fast? So she felt this change started with her when she started hanging out with this guy Wendell, an openly gay man from Alpine Manor. It's not Wendell's fault, but I guess she was introduced to the gay scene through Wendell. So she started to go to tons of gay bars, getting absolutely hammered, and then, you know, parties, and I talked about that. Sometimes you can be introduced to a world, but after that point, it's on you, how you behave, you know? So it's not Wendell's fault. She just took it from there. So many of the staff from the nursing home followed Cathy to the club. So she had this little, I don't know, she had a posse.
A harem?
Yeah, more, that's better, a harem. So Angie liked going to the gay bars because she felt that she was really accepted there, and that it was a ton of fun. So she's like, hey, this is great. I can be who I want to be, and I can have a lot of fun. But she was really surprised about how Cathy acted. She was a sloppy drunk. She was obnoxious. And again, the parties. She also saw another side of Cathy, that she was very petty and really enjoyed hurting people. And if she decided not to like someone, she could be cruel. And inevitably, she would spread lies and have the other staff turn on them. So the people that worked there that she decided to, you know, target would either be bullied to such a degree that they quit. And if they didn't, Cathy would go to the managers or the supervisors, tell lies about them, and get them fired. She loved it. She She really got a kick out of this.
Yeah, power trip, like a typical, manipulation power.
And I found this a little bit of funny. This is something that I read in the book. And again, the book is in the show notes. Cathy apparently said to Angie, "Don't fall in love with me." And Angie's like, "Yeah, don't worry."
Don't fall in love with me. Everybody falls in love with me.
It won't be good for you if you fell in love with me. So with Dawn gone, Cathy was looking for a new roommate / girlfriend / follower. And she had her eyes set on Gwen. And Gwen at the time was really well liked at the nursing home. She was doing a great job. She was considered a good worker, that she was kind to the patients. The patients were always clean, well cared for. She was doing an excellent job.
You mean when they were under her care? She did a good job.
Yeah, no, she was just really good at her job. She did a great job. And then Angie saw that there was, some sparks going on between the two, and she said to Gwen, "Look, just be careful." She told her how she treated Dawn, how she just used people up, and how she uses people and then spits them out afterwards.
Right. So she's just kind of cautioning her to be, her true nature.
Yeah.
But it didn't work.
Okay, let's talk about LaDonna Stearns. Like I said, I'm talking about very specific women that worked there because they did have dealings with Cathy and saw the fallout from her. For LaDonna, it was love at first sight. Cathy had invited her to parties and she fell in love with her. All the women that attended her parties were attracted to Cathy in one way or another. They were all from Alpine Manor, and it didn't matter if they were gay or straight. Cathy would spend most of the time in her bedroom, calling in 1 or 2 special women at a time.
See, she had a harem.
I know, it's just like she's in her boudoir, and she's like, "Oh, Barb, oh, Sally, come in here." I mean, it's just so creepy and cringy. And then the other women would hope that they would be chosen. Like, tonight, will it be my night? It's absolute insanity. What do you call that? Group hysteria, where one person can get really going about something, and then it's usually like an isolated group of people, and then they all go kind of wacky, and then when it's all over, they're like, "What happened?" So anyway, she manipulated them all by pulling their heartstrings and making them feel special, all the stuff that she does. And after she had them where she wanted them, she would gaslight them, like she did with everybody in her life. And then, like I said, she became emotionally and physically abusive with them. She would play all the women off of each other, pitting them against each other. And this was the case with Dawn and LaDonna. She would tell lies to them about each other. So, like I was talking to you about this yesterday, let's say you and Anna, and I'd say, "Mary, that Anna is a bitch." And I'd say, "Anna, that Mary is a bitch." And I'd say, "Anna, do you know what Mary said about you?" Even though she didn't say anything. And then you'd be like, you know what I mean? And then I can walk away and you two go crazy on each other. So that's what she was doing.
Power.
They would fight over Cathy. "She's mine. She's mine. She's mine. She's mine."
I don't think she was all that in a bag of chips myself, but...
Yeah, well, to each his own. But, someone who's very charismatic. People look at Ted Bundy and they're like, "He's gorgeous." And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. What do you guys see that I don't see? I mean, I can see beauty in both genders. Or all genders. But, yeah.
The creepy factor makes it unattractive for me.
Yeah. So she was verbally threatening to them, and she would sometimes get them into having fist fights with each other.
It's like Fight Club for Cathy.
Yeah. And if not all of this was
first
crazy...
rule is don't talk about Fight Club for Cathy.
If not all of this was crazy, and I just had a picture of Fight Club for nuns.
Wait, wasn't that
was something.
It was like something that you and Cred and Erica, the Cred and Erica show was like
that there was a Fight Club for nuns. Anyway, that just passed through my head. Okay, so if not all of this was crazy enough, all the women would end up sleeping with each other. Can you imagine? This is upside down, crazy crazy world. Crazy ward. Yeah, they could be all in a ward. So most of these women were sleeping with each other at any given time, constantly switching patterns. It was like Cathy was the leader of a sex cult.
Oh, partners.
Okay. Constantly switching partners. It was like Cathy was the leader of some crazy sex cult.
Oh, no.
And then she was still messing around with Ken.
What? You mean like messing around? Like just like mentally, emotionally manipulate him? Like, come here, go away. Come here, go away.
Yeah. Or there's times where she would like make out with him and then, things were get going. She'd be like, oh, what am I doing? And she'd get up and leave. Like she was just...
a psychopath.
Yes.
Or a sociopath.
Uh-huh.
Take your pick.
So LaDonna actually confessed her love to Cathy, and Cathy was like, I'm sorry. Don't fall in love with me. We can't be together. And left her heartbroken.
The old don't fall in love with me.
Don't fall in love with me. I can't imagine being that, whatever that is.
Vain.
Sense
of self-importance.
And say that to just whoever. Like all my friends, I say to them, don't fall in love with me. Oh, God.
It's like when you take like a straight friend to a gay bar and they're like, why aren't the girls hitting on me? Like they all expect to be hit on, and it's like...
everybody has their different tastes and flavors or whatever. So Cathy had set her sights on Gwen. Cathy and Gwen did the stereotypical...
Oh, no. What?
First
What
date, they get it on. Second date, they get a U-Haul and move in together.
Oh, no. The U-Haul second date.
Oh, man. That does happen, guys, too. It's, if I am offending any lesbians out there, it happens.
It does happen for some.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Cathy was highly intelligent, and Gwen had a lower IQ. And I don't know if she was... Well, see, Cathy had such a high IQ. She had one higher than most people. Like, we're talking genius level. But I don't know so much as Gwen had a low IQ as she had gone through all the shit she'd gone through.
So Cathy's the evil genius, and she's
she's the follower of, that's what you usually see in a duo or two serial killers working together. One is the one that, like you said, is the brains behind it, the manipulator, and the other one tends to follow and follow through. Though they may both do it, the other one is able to put it mostly onto the follower type. So Cathy liked to play cards and board games and all that kind of stuff. It was an opportunity to like flaunt her super intelligence, but she would pick one person and she would like center on them all night, humiliate them like, in your face. Or like, I'm out. I'd flip the card table and strut out of the room. No, I wouldn't do that. But I mean...
Yeah, you would.
No, I wouldn't.
Oh, no, I don't.
I only ever got mad playing games once when we were doing the video game Jeopardy. That's the only time, because Van was buzzing in so fast, but he didn't really know the answers most of the time. And then I wasn't as fast a buzzer, but I knew the answers, and I didn't think it was fair. That's all. I'm just going to leave it like that. So anyway, so Cathy could convince Gwen to do anything. She would tell her a really, long sob story, and Gwen would be like, oh, I want to love you and protect you. And she'd say things like, I'm ugly and I hate myself. And then Gwen would be like, oh, let's go out and get you new clothes and help you, feel good about yourself. Even though Cathy didn't feel that way, that's how she was able to, or one of her ways of get people to follow for her. So she wanted to protect Cathy. Cathy led Gwen on romantically and then would pull away. So she was doing that as well. And Gwen was just like, what? What the hell's going on? And she didn't know what to do. Cathy would act like she wanted her as a girlfriend, and then she'd be like, you're garbage, get out of here, I don't like you. But by then, Gwen had already fallen in love with Cathy. And for Cathy, she had Gwen in that perfect position that she wanted all people to be in with her. So let's talk about another guy by the name of Tony Kubiak. He was also an aide at Alpine Manor. He had split up with his partner and got a new apartment, but needed a place to stay for 2 weeks before he could move in. So Cathy's like, come on in. You can live with us for the couple of weeks. And he was like, what the hell is going on here? So here's some quotes from him I got from the book that I have in the notes. Quote, the scene was crazy. Girls were out on the street making out. End of quote. I'm just going to say all of them together. So one big quote, end quote. Quote, teenagers do that kind of thing. They were very pubescent. Hickeys all over, that kind of stuff. It was just a bizarre situation. There was also a lot of noise, people fighting, late at night in the yard, a lot of yelling. It was actually over some relationship Cathy was involved in. Gwen would get sick of Cathy's head games and say that she was done with the relationship. When Gwen tried to get away from Cathy, Cathy literally grabbed her by the hair on her head and pulled her back into the bedroom. They were fighting and screaming and slapping. Cathy had the upper hand. Cathy was very possessive. End quote. So he witnesses stuff firsthand himself. He saw that everybody was sleeping with everybody. And Cathy decided who would sleep with who. So not only was everybody sleeping with each other, she decided who would sleep with what person at any given time.
So it's Cathy's sex club. Don't talk about Cathy's sex club.
Cult or whatever. Oh my God. Anyway, so it's so twisted. And then she just carried on with the stuff where she was, bullying people at work, having them quit, and that just continued to carry on. So I want to give you a bit of an idea of the size difference between Cathy and Gwen, not just to get a visual, but to see how Cathy could be so physically dominating to her, even though Gwen was, a tough woman. It was hard to fight against Cathy because she was so physically imposing. So Cathy was 5'11" and a half, and at this point, almost 400 pounds. Gwen was 5'2" and 140. So you could see how Cathy could really be abusive to her. She could, that's a huge size difference. And so she could, dominate her physically, mentally, and emotionally on every level. So just for her size alone. And the size of her personality and her psychopathy and all that kind of stuff. So this is the pattern that Cathy had with people. She'd make friends, suck them in with sob stories, and then they'd want to protect her and take care of her and love her. And then she would seduce them, whether it was through wanting to be like her best friend or sexually, but it was mostly sexually. Then she would abuse them. And then she told them exactly how they could live their life. And then she would have one person that she would make exclusive or make them feel like they were exclusive, and then become incredibly possessive of them. And then when that was all said and done, she'd tire of them, she would turn on them and get everybody else to turn on them. And like I said, they would quit or get fired. And this is the pattern she had with everybody. So she always had a rotation of people going on. And if you can imagine what Alpine Manor was at this point, especially on the third shift, which is what they work, is that she owned the place. And even when she wasn't there, her presence dominated the place because, I don't want to say this or say that in case it got back to Cathy. That kind of thing. I don't want to talk to this person or that person in case it got back to Cathy. So she just dominated the place. So Cathy and Gwen, like I said, work third shift together. And they were always trying to align their schedule to each other. And at least one of them would call in sick each week so that they could, again, be around each other. But again, there was no consequences for this because the turnover was so high that, if they could be hammered at lunch and not get fired, calling in regularly wouldn't get them fired either. And Cathy loved the third shift because it was the easiest shift, or seen as the easiest shift, because the day and evening staff would do all the work. So by like even bathing and stuff like that, they would get them ready in for bed because the evening shift or the night shift was 11 to 7 a.m. So other than checking on the patients, answering call bells and ambulating them to the bathroom, that type of thing, there wasn't a heck of a lot for them to do. So most of the things that they would do on the shift is read, sleep, gossip. And then Cathy got bored of this and decided it would be fun to pull pranks. Of course, it wasn't her that actually pulled the pranks. She would get everybody else to do it and sit back and watch what was going on. And it would also relieve her of any responsibility if anything came back. She'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't do it. Then the other people wouldn't say shit if their mouth was full because don't want to get in the way of Cathy. So I'm just going to list some of the things that she did. So some of these things were just, juvenile things, not okay to do, but juvenile, but then they became incredibly sinister. So I'm just going to read a bunch off. So she would, to get the new staff, they would ring the call bell and then lie under the patient's bed. And when the aide would go in to see what was going on, they would reach out from under the bed and grab their ankle. So it's, night shift, scary, scare the hell of the client as well. They removed the screens off the patient's windows as escape routes. So they'd be running around doing whatever and then made it so they could just like dive out of the windows to escape whatever game that they were playing. They have patients there that have dementia and stuff like that could too walk out and, get out of the windows. They would reverse the patient's lying position. So you'd go in and their feet would be where their head were, and etc. And they switch beds in rooms. So Mrs. Cunningham and Bill Smith would be in each other's spot, which, okay, whatever. But I mean, if there was an emergency, that would not be good at all. It's
well, it doesn't.
It's
Just
juvenile
for the fact that it's disrespectful to the client too.
Yeah, obviously, but I mean,
yeah,
we're getting into where it gets really demented and
yeah.
One of the things Cathy would do regularly is take Gwen and restrain her in a geriatric chair. They get in and you can lean them back like a lazy boy and then put a tray across the top. And it was a way of restraining some clients. And so she would do that to Gwen, or she would dress up a mannequin and put it in a dark room. And the person would walk in, turn the light on, and there's this dressed up mannequin sitting in the chair. I know I would have a heart attack. That would be the last day on earth for me. That would be it. I'd either would die or end up in a straitjacket.
Well, we know you don't like dolls and mannequins and stuff.
Clowns.
I feel fantastic.
Yeah. Hey. And then she was in a sense using the patients as a form of entertainment because it was all surrounded for the most part, these patients. But this is where it gets really, really sick. And again, I was talking to you about this yesterday and you saw how pissed off I was getting. So there was an intercom system, and every room there was a speaker, a two-way speaker. And of course it was piped through different areas of the care home. She would get music, really obnoxious music, and play it into the main intercom system so it would be piped into every room. So these poor people would have to listen to, say, like AC/DC full blast through the intercom in their room. So it's bad enough if you're, alert and oriented and aware of what's going on. That's horrible. But if you're confused, that could be absolutely terrifying. And well, even if you're not confused. So she would do that. She thought it was pretty funny. Or she would write up like nonsense announcements. I don't know. There's a white elephant sale in the kitchen right now. Come get your, I don't know, high heel shoes. But she would write something like that out, but she would have cognitively impaired patients or patients with aphasia go to the speaker and read them out loud. So she was making fun of them.
Yeah, not okay with
no,
that.
that's just terrible. Or this is one of the worst of them all. Some patients with dementia, as they go deeper into it, or advanced, they will put things in their mouth. Everything in their mouth. They just do.
Hmm.
And
But not like a pica.
No, it doesn't seem to be like a pica. It's more like, how babies put things. And I don't want to say that they're babies, but it's like I don't know. It's just something that you can
Like
see
a
in
reversion to something.
Yeah, like the advanced stages of dementia. And there were a couple patients there that would do that. And so she literally put like M&Ms on the ground like E.T. and would set a trail and get these patients and have them walk around this trail of candy and laugh and make fun of them.
Yeah.
So that's just sick shit.
And unsanitary.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's just sick shit overall. And the thing is, confused patients, they can complain, but it doesn't mean anybody is going to believe them, or most people won't. They'll just say, oh, well, that's just John. He's confused. And, these are all reportable offenses. She should have been fired. She should have been hauled out of there and even criminal charges laid against her. But guess what? Everybody was afraid of her, so they didn't report her. And things got much worse, as we find out, because they became more and more abusive, Cathy and Gwen, towards the patients. And then this deranged behavior led to murder. And it was not uncommon for staff, including Gwen and Cathy, to have sex in patients' rooms. Not in an empty room, but in an empty bed that may be in the patient's room.
What? That's like so
it's
unprofessional.
Unprofessional? It's beyond unprofessional.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's everything. It's indecent. It's disturbing. It's...
I don't really have a lot of words for how bad that is. So on that sick and disturbing note, I think we're going to end today's episode. The next and final episode, I believe it will be final episode, we're going to talk about the murders and then the trial and where they are now.
Yeah.
Okay? Because I like to take a bit of time to talk about the victims.
Yes.
And I was thinking that maybe we could do that today, but it just doesn't give enough time to give their due. Okay? So, thank you everybody for listening today.
Thank you, everyone.
Really appreciate that, as you know. Thank you for all the Patreon supporters and those of you who leave iTunes reviews. If you have time or you haven't yet, I'd appreciate it if you could go to iTunes and leave a review. Please feel free to go to the Facebook group and join and hang out. We love, love, love when you guys go there. It's one of the best groups in the world. And yeah, that's about it for today. So thank you for listening. I already said that, but I still mean it. And remember to take care of yourself.
Take care of one another.
And most importantly, love yourself.
Peace.
One love.
True crime and it gets nothing realer. Sometimes it'll be the cure that'll kill you. Gotta watch out, yeah, you gotta watch your back. Cause you don't wanna be another episode on Stat. Thank you for tuning in, learn a thing or two. These medical mysteries can be unbelievable, yeah. Subscribe, make sure you do that so you'll be tuned in and be ready for the next show. Stat.